I finally made it to Masters rank in Pokemon Pocket. I played just shy of 500 games, winning 266 of them and losing 225, giving me a 54.2% win rate over this endeavor. I also did the entirety of this climb without leaning into the top meta decks like Darkrai Giratina or Giratina Mewtwo or even Galate. Today's video is going to talk you through some of the more off-meta things that I enjoyed playing, that I found the most success with during my climb, and then I'll get into some of my thoughts on the rank system as a whole after experiencing a whole heck of a lot of it. Let's get into it. Well, I played a whole heck of a lot of things on my climb up to Masters for live stream content. I played 4 things a little bit more than the rest, and if you want to see any of these decks I'm about to talk about in action, I'm going to link formal gameplay highlights with them in the video description down below. The first of these is Heatran Archus Crobat. This is a deck straight out of last season with a nominal upgrade of Iono, allowing your stage 2 Pokemon to be a little bit more consistent. I think Heatran in general is a card that's well positioned to all the Darkrai stuff in the metagame. They have to do some chip shot damage, effectively letting it be a deal 80 for 2 energy, which is really quite potent into all these 140, 150 HP EX Pokemon, especially when you have first energy. Crobat's ability in tandem with Arceus lets it hit 160 damage breakpoint to blow away most things, and Golbat, attacking as a dark typing for 40 damage with 1 energy, is super effective into Giratina, allowing you to get chip shots for 60 in early, and then often clean it up with a Heatran or a Farfetch'd after the fact. My third most played deck and the closest thing to a top meta deck that I played while climbing was the Meowscarada Beedrill variation that's been around the fringes of the format. This was my go-to comfort pick that I would reach for whenever I was sick of losing to Darkrai Giratina for the day. Meowscarada just absolutely chews up and spits out the decks that are leaning on only EX Pokemon, and I've been very pleasantly surprised just how hyper consistent this deck is, not only assembling its primary stage 2, but also 2 or potentially all 3 of its stage 2s, thanks to the cry from help coming from the basic cat that this deck gets to leverage. This decklet definitely has some more polarized matchups though. While it absolutely dunks on things like Darkrai Giratina and Giratina Mewtwo, it does struggle a little bit more into the decks that aren't playing all EXs, such as Manaphy Gyarados with their access to Origin Form Palkia, as well as the various fighting decks that are running around in the metagame as well. People have experimented with a lot of other Meowscarada pairings, but I feel pretty strongly after playing this deck and a number of others that Beedrill likely is the optimal mate. Not only is it a really potent EX Pokemon to finish on, giving you an absolutely massive amount of HP your opponents have to get through to win the game, but its ability to strip energies from your opponent wins games that no other card can, and the stage 1 Kakuna, letting you flip a coin to paralyze, gives you a chance in games that you would otherwise just be out of due to poor draw variance. My second most played deck on the climb, and the one that got me the most points in Ultra, I would wager, is this Primape Fossils variation. This decklist honestly felt like something of a ladder cheat code. The games where you go second and you hit your Primape evolution on curve, you just run so many people out of the game. A hit for 30 into a hit for 100, sometimes 120 when backed up by a copy of Red, followed by continual bursts for 100 while you set up something like a Rampardos or an Aerodactyl behind. Just run so many things out of the game. You're definitely a little bit weaker when you don't have first energy advantage, but you're definitely not an auto loss. The one place this deck really struggles is against things like Carnivine and Skarmory that can knock out your promo Mankey before you get a chance to get things online. Speaking of, that promo Mankey is a little bit of a hang-up for people who haven't been playing Pocket since its inception. Unfortunately, this deck list is simply not playable without that card, the way it tees up some self-damage for you and clears things like Magikarp in one go. Past this deck having really powerful draws allowing me to win frequently, I think it's also a pretty optimal ladder style deck in a game like Pokemon Pocket, because win or lose, your games tend to play out pretty quickly. You know the outcome and you can either run them down or you can move on and get back into the queue. Like I mentioned at the start of this video, I played almost 500 games on my way back to Masters, and having decks like this one play them quickly was instrumental in getting that done in the 2 weeks that I did it. Speaking of decks that are fast for climbing, my number 1 climbing deck in this first season of Pokemon Pocket was none other than 16 trainer Wug Trio. Players who are regular consumers of my live streams know that this deck kind of been my silver bullet climbing up the ladder. I actually cleared through the entirety of Great Ball with this list, having an almost 80% win rate while doing so, and basically every time I got stuck in Ultra trying to get over some kind of hump and it felt like bad variants and bad matchups were just out to get me and nothing could break my way, I'd load this deck up and punch through whatever barrier felt like it was holding me back with some good plays and obviously a good bit of variance as well. Well, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that this deck is low variance. I will say I feel it is lower variance than a lot of people give decks like this credit for. While any given coin is obviously a 50-50, the more random shots you take over the course of the game, the more likely you're going to go ahead and pull back towards that mean of the distribution that you're looking at. While there's obviously going to be more chances for extreme outliers where you all low roll or all high roll. In a deck like this where you have so many flips occurring in every single game, a lot of the time things are going to come together for you in some combination with some number of those flips breaking your way. I'll also say that quite frequently this deck list comes down to only needing a single good break to go its way a lot of the time, either setting your opponent back one turn with a Team Rocket Grunt or putting yourself ahead one turn with a Misty. And because you have 2 copies of each of these cards, a lot of the time you get 2 chances to win that coin, giving you often what feels like a 75% chance to get tempo ahead of your opponent and get cracking for your 150 damage every single turn with Wug Trio before they have a chance to get set up. I'll also say there's a lot of agency in a deck list like this where you have cards like Iono and Pokemon Communication and other things like when you play out your benched secondary Wiglet that do have player agency and key decisions to make, such as when you're digging for your evolution or when you're playing your Iridas to keep your Wiglet alive through a potential evolution on the opponent's side quite frequently. This deck list also plays blisteringly fast games, which means even though my win rate with it overall was probably a little bit lower than some of the other decks I played less of, I climbed more with Wug Trio simply because my volume of games I was able to throw at that wall was much higher. So, how am I feeling about Pokemon Pocket's ladder system after climbing to the top ranking during the first season? If I'm being completely honest, I felt this ladder grind was a little bit long even for me. I'm pretty used to these card games having these be more of a hamster wheel than something that measures skill, so volume of games is always important, but Pokemon Pocket is in a league all of its own even with this consideration. It took me well over 40 hours of gameplay to make it to the top ranking, and I had a pretty solid win rate while I was doing that climb at that. To give a very pointed comparison of what I mean, I recently climbed from the bottom of Marvel's Snap's ladder to their top ranking after returning from a multi-month break, and that experience took me less than 20 hours, so Pokemon Pocket's climb from the bottom up to the top was about 2 to 3 times as long for me as a player. Another consideration when talking about the grindiness of a rank system is how long will the regrind be when the inevitable season reset happens. Pokemon Pocket's first season is slated to be right around 4 weeks, and I would expect the following ones to be similar. We officially have confirmation that players will drop 2 ranks after the season is done, i.e. a Masters player will drop down to Ultra 3, an Ultra 1 player will drop down to Great Ball 3, etc., etc. Now, for the lower rankings where you have win streak bonuses and losses aren't quite as punishing, I think a 2 rank reset is pretty reasonable. As a measurement of time with some examples, if you have a 52% win rate and you're playing around 8-minute games on average, it's going to take you right around 10 hours to climb from Great Ball 3 back to Ultra 1. I think this is a very reasonable amount of games to expect, and I think it really reinforces that if you're not someone who's virtually living on Pokemon Pocket for gameplay, Ultra 1 is likely a good goal for you to stop at for your ranked climb. Now, the reclimb for higher tier players is not nearly so forgiving. you have to remember that Pokemon Pocket does the typical mobile game thing, and while your progress bar gets close to the end, the amount of time it takes to get through each of the higher ranks increases dramatically. As a comparison, with that same 52% win rate and 8-minute games, it's going to take you on average over 30 hours to climb from Ultra 3 back to Masters if that's how the reset goes each season. For sake of comparison, again, to Marvel Snap, the other digital card game I'm very regularly playing, it on average takes me only single-digit hours to climb from where they reset me back to their top ranking each season. It's also noteworthy that Marvel Snap actually decided recently that that climb was too long, and they're actually shaving some of the time off of it moving forward, starting with their upcoming May season. Past the grindiness, another issue with Pokemon Pocket's current rank design, in my opinion, is the stark lack of ranked floors in the higher tiers. In a lot of other card games, it's very common when you get to the top rank, especially, that you can't fall back out of it, meaning once you get to Masters, you can't lose the following game and then suddenly be back in Ultra 4 again. Ranked floors do two things that are important for games like this. The first is they give players who have been working really hard to achieve a goal a second to catch their breath and feel good about it. It also means that you can go ahead and continue playing the game without feeling like you're going to get punished for continuing to do so. This is especially true in Pokemon Pocket's current setup, where you get an additional prize at the end of the season based on your current ranking when the season ends. This means anybody who finally achieves that Masters goal is probably best off no longer playing ranked matches until the season is over, because there's a very real possibility you could hit a bad streak and not be able to climb back up to Masters before the season is done. I think any system in a game like this where it becomes incredibly optimal to stop playing the game at any point, even if you just want to be playing it for fun, definitely deserves readdressing. To be completely honest and transparent with you all at home and give you some perspective into where my thoughts on this system are coming from, I actually waited a few days to record this video because when I made it to Masters on Thursday of last week, it was actually one of the most miserable, frustrating days of Pokemon Pocket I've ever had on stream in the 6 months since this game released.
Okay, we're done. We're Masters. We have wugged the Masters. Oh, the sweet release of being done.
I started the day 7 wins away from Masters Ranked, and it took me almost 5 hours of rubber banding up, down, and all around the ladder with all sorts of various decks before the Wug Trio 16 Trainer Casino machine finally was able to pull me across the finish line. If I'm being completely honest, I really didn't even feel very good once I made it across the finish line. I could check the made it to Masters at some point off my list, but the lack of rank floors that I talked about a moment ago meant that when I looked at my screen and thought about how I felt, my feeling was I really just don't want to push the play button on ranked again until next season rolls around. It was incredibly deflating to feel like, oh, the optimal thing for me to do here is stop playing the game. And that's what I ended up doing for that day on stream. I signed off for the day and wished everybody a happy weekend, and I actually just did a full Marvel Snap stream on Friday. Now, I'm not going to stop playing Pokemon Pocket until next season. On Monday, we're going to come back, and I think we're going to do some viewer decks and dork around with things in the unranked queue, and I'll probably get over my hold up on playing ranked games and just give in and play bad and neat things in the ranked queue and just accept that I might not finish the season in Masters, but it's an incredibly bad feeling to have to choose between, oh, let's get higher quality, better games of Pokemon Pocket, and oh, let's not risk my points and give up my cosmetic emblem and my nominal amount of additional hourglasses from this Masters rank that I already achieved this season. So, how are you at home feeling about Pokemon Pocket's rank system a couple of weeks in? Is it meeting your expectations, or did it miss them in some way, shape, or form? Are there changes or improvements you'd like to see made to it in the future? personally, I'd love to see rank floors at both Ultra 1 and Masters. I'd like to see the total number of points needed inside of Ultra decrease a good bit to make it a little bit less tedious to grind through overall. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed my video today, be sure to smash that like button. If you happen to be new here and enjoyed my perspective on this topic, you'll probably enjoy it on a number of others. You should consider subscribing to the channel and coming back for my daily pocket content at some point in the future. I appreciate the folks that made it all the way through to the end today, and I hope your next pack is an excellent one.